This is the world of New York State's unseen and unsung protectors, where dedicated men and women confront everything from a criminal psychotic in full rage to the flustered citizen who's lost and needs directions. On duty every day, these three separate but equally important security forces keep state facilities safe for workers, consumers, and citizens alike. They don't make headlines unless something goes wrong, and thanks to their professionalism and dedication, they remain unseen and unsung. They do their jobs without fanfare or notoriety, but that does not diminish the importance of their contribution to the communities they serve or the dangers they face.
All right. Give him a shot. Give him a shot. He needs a shot. What are you doing next to me?
Help me! Help!
What are you doing?
Mental illness, the criminally insane, violence, assaults. That's what Security Hospital Treatment Assistants, or SHTAs, deal with every day in each of New York's 4 forensic psychiatric hospitals located in Manhattan, Marcy, New Hampton, and Rochester. They are not allowed to wear uniforms, and they don't carry any weapons. All they have to rely on is experience and each other. That's what keeps them, their patients, and the staff alive. They are part correction officer, part mental health worker, and each day these men and women go to work behind the locked doors of some of the most dangerous facilities in New York State. Mentally ill men and women are sent to forensic psychiatric hospitals for 3 basic reasons. Evaluation, to determine if they are competent to stand trial in criminal cases, or they have been remanded there by judicial findings of incompetent to stand trial, or they have been found not responsible by reason of mental disease or defect following a criminal trial.
And so until they get treatment and their mental situation clears up, they're in the facility.
Words like mentally ill and patient do not accurately reflect the reality of the people that SHTAs deal with on a daily basis. According to the Office of Mental Health, the populations of these facilities are considered to be dangerous to themselves or others.
They have murdered their children, their wives, husbands, arsonists. These are people that have committed serious crimes.
He was killing other homeless people, and he was cutting them up, and he was volunteering in a soup kitchen, and he was serving the remains of some of his victims in the soup kitchen.
The harshest that I've encountered are women putting their babies in microwaves, putting babies in ovens.
New York State's correctional facilities also contribute to the patient population at forensic hospitals. State prisons are not designed to deal effectively with inmates who show symptoms of serious mental illness. Once identified, these mentally ill prisoners are transferred for treatment to one of the forensic facilities run by the Office of Mental Health. From the moment of arrival, it is the unarmed SHTAs who deal directly with these dangerous and mentally ill criminals.
Usually they've hurt an officer really bad, and they're completely uncontrollable. They're in shackles when they come in.
But SHTAs have less equipment and training to deal with these dangerous felons than corrections officers.
And then when we're ready to take them into the admission room, the shackles come off and we take them in. Once we take them, they're considered a patient. They're no longer an inmate.
The change in status from prison inmate to hospital patient does not make them any less dangerous.
They didn't want to start the admission process, and they started, hitting us and, throwing punches and fighting and kicking.
SHTAs are the members of the hospital staff who spend the most time working directly with the patients. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, SHTAs are on the wards, ensuring that patients are safe from each other and that staff members are safe from the patients.
Our job is to maintain secure environments so they can have treatment for the patients. If there's fights and there's violence in the facilities, in the work areas, there is no treatment.
We were having a good time, and then everything erupted. And I was kind of, really disappointed and disgusted. And this patient come up to me and she said, "Don't ever forget, it's always going to be us against you."
From the time they arrive for work, SHTAs have a host of security-related duties to perform.
We go in, we get the total body count. That's first, foremost, make sure that everyone's there.
And when you go to your wards, you do your ward checks, which are all your security checks, which would be checking the screens, checking the toothbrushes and the combs and the deodorant. And we have boxes, ADL boxes that we have to check.
They're checking the fire extinguishers to make sure they're where they're supposed to be, to make sure the gauges are where they're supposed to be, that these things are fully charged. We're checking the doors that are locked to make sure they're locked. We're looking for anything that shouldn't be there and is, or that should be there and isn't. Anything out of the ordinary.
An SHTA's security responsibilities require tremendous attention to little details. Failure to notice even the smallest things can lead to bigger trouble.
Your patients, they come in from the jails and then they see a place like Mid-Hudson where there is no bars on the windows, there's screens, and they think they can cut those screens. And it has happened.
And this is where your seasoned individual is very much appreciated, because they don't skip the small stuff, Those little things can be real big things at the end of the shift.
SHTAs must devote the same degree of concentration when observing patient behavior if they are going to prevent patients from attacking each other or the staff.
When you walk on the wards and the patients are up and moving around, you observe every patient for their body posture, for their movement, for their tone. Usually the violent patients exhibit past history behaviors of either the body language, the movement, and their posture, or the way they talk, the way they respond to you.
And we'll see who's acting differently. And this comes with experience.
Most of the time it's talking to this guy. Read this guy's body language, see what might work for him. If he looks like he's moving around fast, he's obviously hyper, and just make some suggestions to him. Distractions and redirections are two of the best ways to calm or to try and work with a patient.
Many patients play a dangerous game of hide and seek with the security staff, and weapons that can injure or even kill are the prize.
This is about a 5-pound bag of rocks. This could kill somebody. These are stones that, again, we would remove from an area if we saw them. This is a piece of a vent. It's an aluminum strip. It's got a very sharp edge, and this thing could slice somebody's throat very easily. This is a toothbrush, and somebody with a cigarette has melted the end of it and put a paper clip, a thick paper clip, was inserted into this toothbrush. And this is very sharp.
And it's not just safety inside the facility that concerns SHTAs. Every day, SHTAs transport patients outside their facility for doctor's visits, court appointments, or family events such as funerals. It's up to the unarmed SHTA with no power to arrest or hold a patient, and no uniform to even distinguish them from the patient, to prevent them from running away and into the general population.
They're mostly court and medical type trips. And they're very common. They go out probably once a day, twice a day, on any given Monday through Friday.
I mean, the public doesn't know that until they're exposed to it. And these patients do go out to these public facilities.
During the course of the funeral, he took off. So a couple guys are chasing him, and then, while we're running, we're thinking, well, what are we going to do when we catch this guy? I mean, we can't arrest him. Best we could do is hold him until a police officer arrives. And then somebody's got to call a police officer. So it's a little sticky.
SHTAs also play a significant role in patient treatment, working with them one-on-one to help them modify their behavior.
I'll say, Zambaro, you look nice today, your hair looks nice. And if they're sad, come on, let me help you. What happened? Tell me, let's talk about it. But you deal with them humanely.
Any kind of problems that you think might be going on with the patient at the time, you deal with it giving that patient the ability and opportunity to respond to you rather than be aggressive with the patient in your tone or your approach.
You know, that's what mental health, I think, is about, is working with them and not just trying to restrain them or trying to force them to do things. It's trying to work with them, trying to help them.
As part of a patient's treatment plan, there are weekly meetings of the hospital's mental health professionals, including SHTAs, to discuss the status of each patient.
And the treatment team come in on a daily and weekly basis and meet with the various patients as they need to, right there in the conference room, in the day room.
You're the eyes and ears of that doctor, social worker, psychiatrist, psychologist. And what you report back to them is a big part of how they treat these patients.
We'll go over their plan, how they're performing according to that plan. Are they meeting their goals? Should those goals be changed? Are they attainable?
If we see any differences in what's under their behavior, we make notes so that the psychiatrists, the social workers, the nurses could pick up on it and investigate.
One of the most important elements of patient therapy is their medication regimen. 3 times a day, an SHTA will assist a clinical nurse in dispensing patient meds. Unfortunately, this doesn't always go smoothly.
She has a med cart that she brings out from her office. She has a book with their picture. She will call that individual up. That individual will come up and give his name. She'll look at him, look at the picture, and then hand him the medication.
Sometimes they just come up and refuse flat outright, and then it has to go on to a court order. A lot of times they will go after the person issuing the meds because they blame that person for them having to take the meds and their condition.
Job-related injuries are a daily reality, and SHTAs have the highest percentage of workmen's compensation claims of any group of New York State employees.
There's aggressive behavior, there's assaults on other patients, assaults on staff, or there could be 2 or 3 assaults going on at once.
I've worked in this job for about 5 years. I've been to the emergency room 3 times with serious injuries.
Well, I've been pretty fortunate. I've got popped in the eye a couple of times. I got bit once, scratched, hair pulled. That's relatively mild.
The best protection these men and women have is their experience and the ability to know when trouble is about to start. But even years of experience aren't always enough to keep an SHTA safe from attack.
And all of a sudden, wham, somebody pulls a rug out from under you. You get blindsided. Somebody just hauls off and whacks you in the head or something.
It might start as nothing more than one sentence confrontation about anything, and then all of a sudden just take a swing at you.
When I looked, he reached down with his head and he bit me, and he wouldn't let go. So we went to the ground, and I couldn't pull my hand out. He had a hold of me for 20, 30 seconds before he ultimately let go.
While patient-on-staff violence is a common cause of injury for SHTAs, an even more prevalent problem is injuries sustained while protecting patients from other patients.
We were in the day room, and one of the patients that we know that is a predator. He attacks weaker patients. He's a very abusive patient. He just got up and went and tried to grab one of the smaller patients, and the patient put him in a chokehold so hard because he was scared. He was afraid of this big guy. I told him, please let him go. We have safeties coming. When he let this guy go, he just went up for air. And when he turned around, he grabbed me because I was right behind him. I was the first person he saw. So he grabbed me and he flung me all the way through the day room, from one extreme of the day room to another. But when I got up, I had no sensation, no feeling. My shoulder, my hand, I couldn't move. And from there, the doctor came examine me. He said, you have a fractured shoulder. You're going straight to the emergency room. And I was out like 7 months, trying to get my arm to function again.
While some aspects of a forensic hospital resemble life in a prison, From locked doors and windows to the violent nature of the people inside, they are still hospitals, and treatment is the clear priority of the administration. But with such violent patients, security needs to be a priority as well. These two goals often conflict, and SHTAs are caught in the middle.
The patient was in a chair sleeping or nodding off, and this individual went over and started pummeling him. Pummeling him. So our first reaction, without even thinking, was to jump over the desk, and then, midway we kind of stopped and looked at one another and like, hey, what are we supposed to do here? Obviously, we can't let this guy kill this guy, but by the same token, we're not supposed to grab him and throw him down, and, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
Each day, SHTAs go into these forensic psychiatric facilities and deal with the most disturbed and dangerous people in New York State. The work they do is done out of public view, behind high fences and locked doors. Despite conflicting priorities, inadequate training, and a lack of basic equipment, SHTAs remain dedicated to providing the highest levels of both security and treatment to the patients they are charged with caring for. New York is a compassionate state. It shows a great deal of concern for the mentally ill patients the SHTAs care for. It's time to balance that concern for patient welfare with an equal concern for these dedicated men and women whose job is as dangerous as it is necessary. When the violence and danger of a mental health ward becomes too much for treatment assistants to deal with alone, safety and security officers, or SSOs, are called upon to respond to the situation. As professional law enforcement officers, with the same authority as police officers while on duty, safety and security officers bear the ultimate responsibility for employee and patient safety at New York State mental health facilities.
The primary responsibility is the patients, the employees, and the property. So we perform exactly the same functions as the police, the village police, the county police, the state police. We control the traffic, we enforce vehicle and traffic laws, penal law.
We can do the investigations, we can do the reports, we can send that stuff on to the district attorney's office for possible charges.
While some SSOs work in the high-security environment of the forensic psychiatric hospitals, the majority is employed at civil hospitals, which deal with people who are mentally ill, retarded, or otherwise developmentally disabled. Yet even in these less secure facilities, SSOs face a changing patient population with serious mental issues and violent tendencies.
We're getting pedophiles, we're getting arsonists, we're getting violent patients up there, we're getting street smart patients, we're getting them from the jails.
The kind we have today are more of your street psychiatric, drug-induced alcoholic individuals, homeless, very dangerous. There's fewer and fewer units, but yet the patient population is staying the same, so they're putting more patients in the units that are existing, and so they get on each other's nerves.
If they have a problem with a patient, they push the personal body alarm, it rings down to the safety department, and we respond to assist them. And
patient picked up one of the chairs in the dorm and threatened to throw it. Then we rushed him. I ended up with a ruptured bicep muscle.
As the population of these facilities changes, SSOs are finding more and more handmade weapons that can seriously hurt or even kill.
We found this in a new mattress that was just purchased. It's used as a weapon put between the knuckles. This was brought in by a visitor or another client going out on a home leave.
SSOs also provide a key safety link for patients and staff beyond their role as law enforcement officers. As a group, they are charged with ensuring that New York's mental health facilities are in compliance with all fire safety and building codes.
Part of our job is the building inspections and safety violations, fire inspections, to make sure that everybody knows proper procedure as far as any kind of fires or what's considered safety violations according to JCHO, which is the accreditation for all hospitals in the country.
Make sure fire extinguishers are up to date. Make sure that there's not an accumulation of garbage and what we call Class A combustibles, paper and stuff like that could catch on fire.
We're looking for fire code violations as far as egress being blocked, as far as electrical wiring not being appropriate, broken outlets, rooms being cramped in with furniture.
We do the fire safety checks throughout the building, and during the process we do fire drills. We do evacuation drills. We coordinate that.
SSOs are also responsible for inspecting hundreds of home-based care units across the state.
We have to make sure that these clients are safe, that these individuals are safe to be able to escape if there is a fire, burglary, make sure they're not being abused by the family care provider.
Make sure the fire alarm system is working right. And if they have a sprinkler system, make sure that that sprinkler system in that particular home has been tested.
SSOs are keenly aware of their role as uniformed representatives of their facilities. Very often, SSOs are the first people from a facility that the general public encounters.
We have to check their ID, we have to check who they're visiting, whether that patient is allowed visitors. We have to call the ward to see if the patient is on the ward. A mental hospital can be a very scary place, and not everybody is comfortable with it, and we try to make them feel as welcome as we can.
And while their primary role is safety and security, SSOs can also have a positive influence on the course of a patient's treatment.
We stop and just talk and shoot the breeze, find out how they're doing, how their families are, make them feel that you really do care.
And I took the time to listen to him. And he would stay for a while, he would go out, and he would always come back, and I would, try to explain, you're going back to the same environment, you have to change your environment. I did have an impact on him. He ended up graduating from college.
Beyond the greeting when entering a facility, most people who encounter an SSO have little or no idea of the responsibility they bear for the institution's safety, or the range of duties required to meet that responsibility. Though SSOs perform their duties largely hidden from the public eye, they do so with all the pride and professionalism of your best public police forces. A safe environment for employees and consumers is a prerequisite for providing vital services in New York State. It's the job of Security Services Assistants, or SSAs, to create and maintain that environment. Very often, SSAs are the only uniformed presence in a state office building and are called upon to perform many tasks often associated with a police officer.
The tenants and the pub, they're very aware. They're on us all the time. Did you see that guy? There's a guy outside, and he's drinking out of a brown paper bag or something.
Because we're a state court facility, you have to ask if you're carrying concealed firearms, pocket knives, mace, anything of that nature.
Many of the agencies housed in the offices where SSAs are stationed hold administrative hearings that often leave a participant feeling wronged and angry. SSAs are vital to diffusing or otherwise dealing with these situations.
I will say, sir, I understand you're upset. What's going on? I want these people to focus on me so they're not focusing on the things that are making them angry. Usually I can talk them down and get them off.
Offices will call if they have a problem with a client that isn't happy, and we make sure that we escort them if need be, or call the police if need be.
We have what they call special handling cases where people have made threats against either a judge or a court reporter or an employee. I'll go in and literally sit down opposite the claimant in the hearing room.
Over the course of their years of service to an institution, the SSAs come to know the buildings they serve in better than anyone else. This provides a great security advantage for the tenants and the public alike.
When you're there 22 years, you know every nook and cranny and every person and every object.
We're always on the lookout for anything that doesn't seem right.
Walk through and go, that doesn't belong there. That's not in my mental picture being there ever.
Since the national tragedy of 9/11, a heightened sense of security exists in our state institutions, and the SSAs are the frontline defense.
It's in the forefront. It's there. People are You know, like if you see a bag now, you check it out. Where are you going? What's in the bag? Let me see the bag.
I will go around the building to make sure there's no suspicious packages leaning up against the building. I'll literally look inside garbage cans to make sure there's no odd packages in there.
When it comes to building and facility safety, especially as it relates to fires and fire prevention, SSAs have numerous duties.
My job literally is, if there's a fire, to make sure everybody's out before I leave myself. I check all the bathrooms, all the hearing rooms.
I have the fire extinguishers at the down of the building. That's my responsibility. I go to each one of them, I weigh them, I check the pressures on them, and I have to sign and date them.
SSAs also provide valuable services to people who have to deal with a large and often impersonal state bureaucracy. Very often, it's just the personal touch of offering directions or assistance.
I didn't know who to go to, and I gave them a name and a number to call, and they went there, and they actually called me back, and she said, "You really helped me, and it's made a difference."
Each day, SSAs man their positions never knowing what they'll face. It could be an angry and armed individual upset with a judge's decision, or coordinating a fire drill, or just helping someone with directions. Whatever the task, security services assistants are on duty, ready to respond.
Because if something doesn't go wrong, people don't know why they need us. I said, well, probably 50% of the reason things don't go wrong is because we're here, we're a deterrent.
Across New York State, these three groups of dedicated men and women are providing vitally important security, safety, and treatment services. They do their work beyond the sight of most New Yorkers, but the dangers they face and the contributions they make are real and important. They go to work each day, never knowing what they will face: a dangerously insane criminal, a co-worker in need of protection, or even just a citizen needing directions. Whatever the challenge, security hospital treatment assistants, safety and security officers, and security services assistants are on duty and ready to serve.